Ladies and gentlemen, I am feeling weirdly British or English this morning. It's morning for me, it won't be when you see this. I am actually drinking a cup of tea, which is weird. And I even stood up for my morning ritual of listening to God Save the Queen by Sex Pistols. And that's, you know, I don't know why. I don't feel it in my voice. I'm not feeling very British or very English. I know I usually am to most people, but I don't know. It's just little extra things. I don't have a Union Jack or anything in my room. I think that's a little, I don't know, I think it's a little overkill. Plus, it's not like you can exactly buy those things in rural Ireland. It's not exactly something they sell. But, you know, I'm doing what I can. I even listened to some one of my favorite British bands, Royal Blood. I mean, I actually don't know where exactly the two members are from. For all I know, they could just, like, be from... They're both Scottish, and they're like, "Do you fucking call us a British band?" Or I don't know. Either way, I don't know. I've only sort of like just taken it into account when I was thinking of what to say at the start of one of these things, because for once we actually have a question to respond to, or a question I could do that's worthy of like its own video on this thing of me talking about it. And this question comes from my friend Morg. And the question, if I pull it up, is if I've ever wanted to rebrand. If so, what would it be and why? And yes, I have considered rebranding. I've considered it a lot. I've considered it a lot to the extent where I know roughly what I would rebrand to if I were to do it. And like, I probably should do it like whilst I'm still relatively, well, pretty much unknown to the to like the larger, I guess, online content creation community, I guess you'd say. Because I do like it. I do prefer being called just Dom, you know, my first name. Well, technically nickname of my first name because it's shortened. I do prefer that than to being called C-Line, I guess, in a weird way. It's not that I dislike being called C-Line, it's just, I don't know, like, Dom's a bit more, like, casual, and it makes me sort of feel like, yes, I'm a person, not just some fucking idiot with a microphone on the internet. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. As much as I don't like giving away too much personal details of things on the internet, I do prefer it over being called, like, C-Line, but not to the extent where I'm gonna get, like, offended or, like, fucking turn my nose up at anyone that calls me by C-Line. I have good mates who I've made through like Twitch and Discord and all that sort of stuff, who still, despite them knowing basically my full name, they still call me C-Line, and I'm you know, perfectly fine with that and everything. But yeah, in terms of like what I'd rebrand to, I really like skeletons. Like I think they're cool. I think they're neat, and I would rebrand something involving my thing being like a skeleton. I even for one of Bristle Bearhog, who's an artist friend of mine, did a thing in October. I can't remember which year I got it done. I think it was not last year, but year before, where anyone who subscribed to her Twitch got a little chibi kind of a character thing from her. And it could be whatever you wanted. And I wanted some sort of skeleton thing of me. And I don't know if I'll show it on screen because the whole point of this series is for like minimal editing with this, but maybe I will. And it's really fucking good. And that was sort of like one of the things that cemented to me the thing of like, okay, if I ever rebrand, it's gonna be something like where I'm a skeleton boy, I'm a skeleton dude, I'm a skull man or whatever. Because I just think they're cool. I think they're neat, and there's a lot you can do with that. Whereas I feel there's not a whole lot you can do with C-Line, and plus I feel like it gets rid of any like potential confusion switching to like a skeleton thing over keeping the C-Line, because with the C-Line thing, it's not like confusing or anything from the get-go, but like, you know, when you see it just in text, or when you hear people like address me as C-Line, they think, oh, it's, you know, it's an actual like C-Line like you'd see in real life. You know, it's the seal, like the species that's called a sea lion, or like walrus. I actually don't know. That's the thing. Also, I don't know much about sea lions themselves. I just sort of like, I picked that moniker for reasons I won't go into. Although I suppose I should. I won't detail what my last name is just for the sake of it. But essentially, how I got the moniker Sea-Line was I was trying to come up. I'd only just gotten like the availability to do like PlayStation Now and Xbox Live stuff. Like we had just gotten an internet where I could like just about do stuff on games online. And I was trying to think of a moniker thing, something that I wouldn't think was like too awful, something I wouldn't think was like too cringy or whatever. And I was trying to think of one. And then one day in secondary school, a kid who sort of like tried to like rip the piss out of me a lot, didn't work a lot of the time, as you could probably tell from what I'm about to say, but he took my last name, and instead of just calling me by how my last name usually is said, they called it Sea-Line, and they tried to go like, oh, Sea-Line, hey, Sea-Line, that kind of thing, and all that sort of stuff, like Dom Sea-Line, and all that sort of shit. And I laughed it off because I was like, that is the most pathetic attempt at any kind of like name ribbing I've ever heard. They didn't even go for like the easy like saying, instead of Dominic, they said like, they didn't say like dumb dick or anything like that. Anything that could have been like at least a bit more like creative and had any kind of sting to it. But I guess that one just didn't occur to him for some reason. But yeah, so then I went home last night after that day, not last night, the night of that day, and I thought, Sea-Line, it's not too bad, you know. It's sure it's an animal, but like, you know, it's not anything like, you know, I'd be against. And then I was like, okay, let's see the availability of Sea-Line on Xbox Live, and the Sea-Line was taken, but Mr. Sea-Line and then a bunch of numbers, and I mean a bunch of numbers, like. It's been so long since I've used it. It must have been like 4 or 5 numbers. Wasn't taken, so I picked that. And then anytime I do sort of like an online thing, it would incorporate Sea-Line in some capacity, like if in the name and if it was like taken or not. And then when it came time for me to actually like fucking start planning to do online content creation stuff, when I first made like my main YouTube channel, I had the idea of like, well, I'm not against the idea of having like secondary channels, and they would be like, you know, slight alterations or iterations of the name Sea-Line. So why don't we do the main channel Super Sea-Line, much like how George Weidman, I always forget how to pronounce his last name, but essentially Super Bunny Hop on YouTube, who's a YouTuber I really love. His YouTube channel name is Super Bunny Hop. So I was like, oh, I can't even remember if he has like other channels that have Bunny Hop in its name. I think his secondary channel that his podcast goes on is just Bunny Hop's second channel or something. But yeah, I thought, you know, that's a good idea. I can do the main one as like the super, because that's like the thing where it's essentially most of my thoughts and creative input that I can muster into like, you know, video content form. And then anything else, I just like stick a different like slight moniker iteration or change onto it. And that's how I got that. And for the skeleton thing, so far the only name I've managed to come up with that I somewhat like is Skeladom. And like it's a good thing about that, because that encourages people to just call me Dom. I doubt anyone would call me Skella from that. The bad part is it sounds like a kind of like a I don't know, a Halloween themed BDSM thing. So I don't know I'm not 100% set on that. And of course I don't have to have a name that, you know, is like stringently set to what my avatar thing is. But you know, I find it helps in a way, because, you know, Bunny Hop's thing is like, you know, it's a bunny that looks like the old Foxhound logo from Metal Gear, and that's great. And obviously I've also like thought of, oh, what if I did like slight changes or spins of like games I like, but I don't know. I couldn't come up with anything concrete that I liked the idea of in doing that regard, because as much as I love things like Metal Gear and Silent Hill and No More Heroes, Titanfall, bunch of things that I love that I like wouldn't be totally, I guess, against using in some kind of moniker thing. It's not exactly the strongest in terms of like rememberability, I find, because like Bunny Hop's logo is like, it's just sick, and it's like that version of the Foxhound logo isn't like as well known to like the gaming public as the regular Foxhound logo from Metal Gear Solid 1, so I find it works for him. But I don't know, it's one of those things, because like I'm not exactly great at like marketing or publishing or whatever, but I find the initial idea of a skeleton to be much more immediately understandable to anyone rather than the sea lion things. The first they think, oh, sea lion, like the animal, and then they're like, ah, and then it's like they look at the actual like avatar thing that I rarely show nowadays, that oh no, it's actually a half seal, half lion, when all it looks like is a fucking lion mermaid, which is arguably worse and leads to further confusion. But yeah, if I was gonna do it, which I still might, because I'm like, again, I'm not against sea lion. It's just I feel like I could do better with a like branding name thing or whatever. And I wouldn't be like, you know, against like dropping the whole like different iterations that I have on the channels and all that. You know, I wouldn't be against dropping Sea Lion Live and regular Sea Lion and Super Sea Lion and all that, just to have like something that I like a bit more. Because like, I don't dislike my online name exactly. It's just I think to myself, there's untapped potential, I guess, in some ways. So that's how I feel on it. If I was gonna rebrand, definitely something skeleton related. Maybe not Skeledon, because that's not a great name either. But yeah, thank you for listening. If you want to ask a question, please, so that I have more inbox things for this, please do. Leave a comment, at me on Twitter, put it in the Discord, or email me at tubesqueeze@pm.me. Take care, folks.